these two boxes of Rallyman are jam-packed with possibilities, and it's my intention to highlight all of the interesting things you can do with them. This is Shakedown. In today's Shakedown, we're pushing our car to its limit and then a little bit further as we explore the Redline rules. What are they? Well, imagine, if you will, the following scenario. You're racing around Suzuka near the front of the field, but on the long back straight you hear a noise that you don't want to hear. A rev limit warning beeping away to remind you, as if it weren't clear enough, that you just can't go any faster. The car you're chasing disappears around 1:30 and the race is lost. What can you do? Well, today we're going to find out by having a look at the Redline rules. If you haven't guessed already, we'll be racing around O'Daly's Suzuka circuit, which is a figure of 8 track that makes use of the bridge from what is now the Adrenaline pack, though you can use a generic straight tile and rotate it as needed should you not have access to that expansion. We'll be in the yellow GT4 on standard asphalt tyres, and we'll be making use of the Redline rules where we feel that it is necessary to do so. Our opponent comes in the form of another level 5 NPC using Dr. Worm's rules, so no re-rolling to speed things along. In contrast to us, however, they will not be using the Redline rules during their turns, and to see why that is important, it's about time I explain what those rules are. Under the Rallyman GT rules as written, it doesn't take long for players to notice that in order to maximise both the distance travelled down the track and the ending speed to guarantee turn order, that the best strategy for navigating the long straights was to brake heavily to as low a gear as possible and then accelerate back up to the highest gear. This is, on a thematic level, a tad absurd, and so to make this quirk a little easier to swallow, Dr. Worm developed the Redline rules. There's a more complex set of Redline rules which you can have a look at for yourselves on Board Game Geek, but we'll be using the version found in the advanced rules in various Rallyman rulebooks. And the rule is this: if you're in your highest gear, you may use any unused brake dice as Redline dice, placing them on the circuit as you would a coast die in order to extend your turn a little further. The catch is that for each Redline die you place, you don't get to place a gear die, and you can't, of course, use that Redline die for its original purpose as a brake die as well. We roll fewer dice, therefore reducing our chances of losing control, but we're able to go the same distance, and so this should be a safer strategy for us to use on all these long straights. Is it? Let's put it to the test. Welcome to Suzuka. It does all fit on the table, but I can't get it in one shot with my camera, so I must remember to move it during the middle of the lap. But first we must get there. So we're going to plan out my usual opening move of going as far as I can flat out, and hopefully we will generate lots of focus to use on future turns. 1 hazard, but 7 focus coming our way, and that puts us into 4th gear in the middle of the first corner. What can the NPC do? Quite a lot, as it happens, and if I plan it carefully, I can do what I should have done myself, and that is to use that corner a little smarter. If I go in this space in gear 4, I get a hazard, but of course if I coast from gear 3, I do not take a hazard. That's what I should have done, and then put myself on the inside. Instead, I dipped down into this safer space because I used my coast dies after the gear die. So that's what I should have done, because that gets turn order for being on the inside. So that's a lesson that I should have learnt. The NPC continues to show me how bad a Rallyman player I am. New round. And it's going first. Now it has not lost control, but it has to brake down to gear 1 for the speed limit. So that's 1 hazard. It's going to come out and go up towards gear 4 if it can. It can instead go to gear 3 on the corner. If it were to place its gear 4, it would be its third hazard. So that is the best that it can do. It does clog up a corner for me though. So what can I do in response? Let's see. If I break down to 2, up to 3, coast 4, that would allow me to get turn order. That is the best that I can work out. So let's put down our gear marker. I have the focus, but I do want to risk that roll to get some more. We have 2 hazards on that roll, so it was close, but no crash. 5 more focus tokens, and that puts us in 4th gear, able to overtake on the next turn. So let's drop down to 3 and coast around our NPC opponent. We can't do much more because of our speed limits and our gears. So the best we could do is take the inside lane in 4th gear and try and keep it. I am going to go flat out on those dice. 4 clean dice. I have lots of focus. I shouldn't go flat out anymore. And that puts us into this space here. The NPC has not lost control, but won't be able to do much with the way that this corner is situated. So it can only do that to match us in gear 4. And we are into another round already. Now, I have to drop to 2 in order to get into this inside space, but I should be able to coast our way through up to 4th over here. That will again allow us to keep the inside. That will mean a risky break, but it'll put us in a better position. We have lots of focus to pay for dice as well. 1 by 1 then. Breaking is good, coast is good, coast is good, coast is good. Should have gone flat out. 4 was our only hazard. We are in this space at the end of our turn, and the NPC is going to try and keep up, which it certainly can with all of those dice. It wants to be over here at least in 4th. Now, it could, however, drop to 1. Coast, coast, coast. No, that's not going to... I was hoping to do something with overtaking, but I don't have the dice for it, so it's going to do much the same as us. We need to break down heavily to 1st gear because of that dotted line speed limit, but we will hug the inside, come out in 2, and then go into the middle of the tunnel in 4th gear. Let's take the inside lane as well. Right, we have the focus to pay for things. There's 1 hazard on a break. Coast is good, coast is good, coast is good. 2 is our 2nd hazard, so I will pay for those last 2 dice and play it safe from here. NPC then, can it keep up? No loss of control, but both its hazards were on the break, So it can do a very similar thing to us in order to keep the same distance. So it will continue to threaten us in 4th gear as we come through the tunnel. So we have a hairpin coming up. I would like to slow down for it over the course of this turn. So if we go something like that, then we can come out in 2nd gear over there. We have lots of focus to pay for that. So let's see how far we get. We are good on the coasts. The 4 is a hazard. The 3 is good. I'm going to risk the brake 1. The 1 was a hazard, but the brake was good, so I can pay for the gear 2 die, so we don't have to roll that. That'll put us all the way over here in 2nd gear, and we will see what the NPC can do. It might want to overtake us, so it might stop before the corner in gear 4, although given the hazards that it's rolled, that might be tricky. It will, let's see, let's coast. It could brake to 1, but then that would be too early for the corner. So it can do that and then come out in 2, so it can still threaten us. As we put the bridge back and head into the next turn, where I want to make use of all of these long spaces to put me in the middle of the track in 4, and then I will plan a brake into 1st gear down there. That will get me distance, it will get me the inside lane. We have lots of focus to pay for these dice. We're good on the coasts. The 3 is a hazard. The 4 is good. I'm again going to risk the brake. The brake is good, and the 1 is good as well. We have sailed all the way into Spoon, if memory serves. Not too good on track corner names. The NPC then is going to try and play catch up. Not the best with brakes, but I don't think it needs them. So it's going to go 1, 2, coast. So it can get up to gear 3, and that will give it a chance of going first and overtaking us in the next turn. That's probably the best that it needs to do. Okay, next turn. NPC has turn order. It has not lost control, so it will drop to 1 with a brake, and then it can coast through in 2nd, and then it can hug the inside to get all the way over here in gear 4. That will put the pressure on us to do well. As we head down the back straight. So what are we going to do to play catch up? We are going to be in gear 1, so we will coast through. Now we can't coast that far because we need to overtake, so we need a 3 and a 2, but we can coast past and hopefully get the advantage. Let's roll those one by one and see how far we get. 1 is good, coast is good, 2 is good, 3 is good, 4 is good. These should be safe as well. There we are, could have gone flat out. We are on the back straight then. We can make use of the red line rule. So we're going to go down to 3. We're going to coast onto the bridge, up into 4, and then we can red line down the other side. And that will keep us in 4th gear. And again, we have lots of focus. We don't need to risk a flat out roll, especially because there's 2 hazards already. I want to, that will cost 10 focus for those dice. Do I have 10? Yes, it looks like I do. And that is our turn. NPC is trying to play catch up. It was very close to losing control. Unfortunately for him, he can't go all the way down to 1 and then up to 4 without crashing. So he's going to have to go down to gear 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 3 coasts. So he didn't manage to get the most distance from his riskier way of navigating the straits, but he is still in gear 4 behind us, so we do still have to pay attention. New round then. There's a chicane coming up, so we are going to want to slow down for it, and it would be heavy braking. And then I wouldn't get much the other side. So let's reduce our braking, and then let's come out in 2. That will unfortunately mean the next turn starts with taking a hazard, but we can deal with that. We don't have as many focus tokens as I had the previous round, so I'm going to go flat out on this one. Maybe that is the wrong thing to do, but with the makeup of the dice, I think the odds are in my favor. No hazards whatsoever, and we navigate the first part of the chicane and end in gear 2. The NPC is playing catch up. Doesn't lose control, has a fair few dice to work with. Can it get into gear 4? Yes. So it will do a deadly break on the bridge, and it can go up to 2. It can coast through 130R, and then it can come out into 4th gear there, and that will put the pressure on us. Going slow might be our undoing. The NPC is going first, but it has a couple of hazards to navigate first. It has, first of all, 1 hazard on a break. To enter the next space will cost it another hazard, but it can get around me in 2nd gear. So it's at 2 hazards for the turn. It can coast out and then come up to gear 3. It will take the inside lane to give me a bit of a headache, but I will try my best to get around it. On this turn, I do not want to be beaten by Dr. Worm's NPCs again. However, we do have to take a hazard for going into that space. We will have to be in 3rd or higher to overtake the NPC. So we can do something like this. We can go up to gear 4. And because we haven't used any braking or the 1st gear, we could use the brake dice as a redline dice. What we could do instead, of course, is to start our turn in first gear and then coast over here, and that would save us the added risk that the red dice bring compared to the white dice. So that is going to be my plan. I will take the inside lane to be absolutely certain. We will see how far we get with that roll. Again, we take one hazard for entering this space. The 1 is good, the 2 is good, the 3 is good, coast is good, coast is good, 4 is good, coast is good. We have made it around the chicane, overtaking our opponent and coming towards the finish line. At the end of that round, all I have to do is coast over the end. 2 coasts flat out secures me the victory. And that was a lap around Suzuka. We have looked at the Redline rules, and if they are of interest to you in your games, then I welcome you to get them to the table and see how you can use them around circuits like this, or of the many other circuits that you will see from O'Daly if you check out the Real Circuits Setup Guide on Board Game Geek. I encourage you to play Rallyman as much as you can using whatever rules you like.